And in other news, a 15-year-old boy in Georgia was just added to the heart donor list after the hospital initially deemed him not a good candidate for the transplant. Now, initially, doctors at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta told the family that they wouldn't put Anthony Stokes on the transplant list because of his history of noncompliance. According to Stokes' family, their son had been denied the transplant in part because of his history with law enforcement and poor grades. Doctors also allege that Stokes had not been reliable about taking his heart medication. Now, the public relations manager at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta made this statement to RT. In all transplant cases, we work closely with the family and their support network to coordinate the best possible results for the patient and continue to find solutions. In this particular case, we are continuing to partner with the family. Now, the hospital has changed course, saying that Stokes will be added to the donor list after all. Joining me now to discuss this case is Michael Denzel Smith, a contributor for The Nation and a Nobler Fellow at the Nation Institute. How are you doing, Michael?
Doing all right. How are you?
Now, Michael, what's your take on the hospital initially deeming Anthony Stokes non-compliant, therefore making him unfit for the heart transplant, then turning around their decision?
Well, I think, one, they should have given more reason why they found him to be non-compliant. I think that was one of the complaints of the family, is that they didn't give any reason to begin with. And then they were left to guess that it had to do with his history with and his bad grades. But that would be just a simply ridiculous reason to deny someone a heart. I mean, especially when you're talking about a 15-year-old. I mean, it would be ridiculous for anyone of any age, but to say that a child isn't eligible for a heart transplant because you believe that their history of with law enforcement precludes them from a healthy life is indicative of the kind of racism that we see in this country, because I mean we are dealing with a 15-year-old black boy, and what happens is the lives of black children become devalued in this country. And I mean, we've seen that as we've dealt with Trayvon Martin, with Jordan Davis, with Rakia Boyd, with Ayanna Stanley Jones in Detroit. I mean, we've seen the devaluation of black life in this country, and I think that essentially they had to reverse course because this story getting out caused great embarrassment for them. And I think that's the power of journalism, and that's power of activism and online communities that can put this type of pressure on institutions to reverse their ways.
So you're saying that you think Stokes' race had everything to do with the hospital's original determination?
I don't think that they looked and said, here's a 15-year-old black kid, let's deny him a heart. I think if their reasoning had to do with his involvement with law enforcement, well, we have to look at why are young black men disproportionately involved with the criminal justice system. Why would a 15-year-old have a record that one would look at to say we could deny this young boy a heart? We can look at the school to prison pipeline and look at how disproportionately black youth are suspended or dealt with by police in their schools. These type of records early on, and their behavior isn't any different than their white peers, but it's received differently. And I think you also have to look at simply the sort of implicit or unconscious bias that all of us carry when you're dealing with, I mean, we're talking about the medical profession. There's a long history of black people dealing with the medical institution in this country and being treated as guinea pigs, being treated as experiments, but also being seen as not human, or being seen as different from white patients, in which the means for treating them is different. And so that when you look at a black patient, you see their suffering differently, or you see them not suffering at all.
Now, Michael, to your knowledge, has anything like this ever happened before to a 15-year-old child where his or her heart condition has absolutely nothing to do with their behavior?
That, to my knowledge, absolutely not.
Now, do you think that all of this media attention, it obviously, like you mentioned before, that it played a large part in the hospital's decision to put Stokes on the transplant list? Do you think without the media attention and the journalists doing what they did, this ever would have happened?
No, I don't. I think that this is one of the great tools of media is being able to put this type of pressure on people. And I mean, this is a great embarrassment for that hospital to have this on their record that they were going to deny, not deny him, a heart even, but deny him even placement on the list to try to get a heart. I mean, that just seems egregious and just completely unfair.
That was Michael Denzel Smith, a fellow at the Nation Institute.